Hey everybody, welcome to KO Airbrushing Tuesday tutorial. Today we're going to do a teardown on a Iwata Micron airbrush and an Iwata CMSB airbrush. I've been requested to tear them down, clean them up, put them back together again so that people can see how that's done. So yeah, that's what we're going to work on today, and let's get to it. If you're using the Iwata Micron and SB brushes like I am, one of the things you're definitely want to get yourself is an Iwata cleaning kit. They come with a few things that are kind of nice. You can get them elsewhere if you want to. One of the big things though that comes in the kit that's really nice is this little nozzle screwdriver, so that you can take your nozzle in and out without damaging it in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, list of tools that I have is that little screwdriver for the nozzles. A regular small flat blade screwdriver. This is a toothpick or a flossing type thing from gum. Get yourself some of those, they come in very handy. Some pipe cleaners, a pair of tweezers, and a pair of needle nose pliers. And I also have a bottle of reducer here. In this case, because I've been using House of Color paint with everything that I've been doing, this is actually a gun wash solution. And that's exactly what this is as well. This is my brush cleaning solution. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is even though these brushes have already been cleaned, I am going to run some reducer through them again just to make sure everything is loosened up. I'm just wiping out the bowl a little bit here, make sure there's nothing in there too. Okay, so now what you want to do once you get to that point, disconnect your air hose of course. You want to take out your lock if you have a lock on your brush. I normally do not have a lock on my brush. And give me one sec, I'm just going to zoom this in a little bit for you guys so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so you take your lock off, take your back protective cover off, the part of the body. Next thing you want to do is you want to take off your needle lock. Set that there so you don't lose it, and take out your needle. And normally I don't tear things down super far. Like normally I'll just leave my trigger in. The trigger doesn't need to come out unless you've had a really nasty blow up in your brush. The paint should not be getting back here in any way, shape, or form. So the other things you want to take out, then you want to take off your needle cap, or your nozzle, and you want to do this very carefully. Loosen that up a little bit, and then I also loosen that one up at the same time. And again, you want to be very careful doing that. Sorry, that one was not tight enough to let me loosen that one. There we go. And there we go. Okay, and then you can take that whole piece off together, and you can disassemble it after you've got it out if you need to. And then once you got that taken out, then you can take a look down inside of the gun and double check in there, make sure there's no gunk or anything in there that needs to be removed. So I'll use, because like I said, I was using House of Color paint, I'm using gun wash to clean this out. If you're using like a Createx or something like that, there's airbrush cleaner, so you would use that. And then, like I said, it's nice having these because you can get right in there and clean out that flow chamber. And that'll get you any residue or anything like that that's in there. And once you get that out, you can just dry that out a little bit, get any reducer that's still in there out. And at this time you can check that rubber seal and make sure that that rubber seal is okay, and yeah, it looks fine. Also make sure there's no fuzz left in there from the pipe cleaner. You want to have that as clean as possible there to seal up against the back of the nozzle. And normally if you're getting any kind of blowback or anything, I'm just actually going to blow a little gob of reducer through there and let it run out. Sorry, I guess you couldn't see what I was doing there. So all I did there was I just took my eyedropper and just flushed a little bit of the cleaner through it. There we go. That looks much better now. I was just trying to get a little piece of fuzz out of there. And now it's out. There we go. Okay, so once you get to this place, again, now if you've had some bad problems with paint blowout or anything like that, let me just get this stuff closer in here so that I can get everything on screen for you guys. Okay, so now in this area here, there is a little screw valve in here. Now if you've had any paint that's been leaking out in here, you'll want to take this out and give it a cleaning as well, because there's a seal in here too. So basically all you do with this is just turn it until it comes out. Go counterclockwise, of course, clockwise to put it back in. And the procedure that we're doing here is basically the exact same thing for, and not basically, it's the exact same thing for the SB as well. I'm just taking one brush part at a time because I don't want to get the parts mixed up. So you just want to keep going until that piece comes out. And there we go, that's out now. And then while you've got this out, you can check your seal here. And you can double check and make sure you haven't had any paint leakage or anything like that that's been coming out around this. This seal is very important. And you can also check to make sure there's nothing in there, which there's not. So in other words, I haven't had any leakage coming back out into that portion of the brush. Everything looks nice and clean in there. Yep. So if this is not clean, then again, take your pipe cleaner, go in there, and you can just clean that area out where that valve is that you just took out. And this is just basically, this is your needle guide, and it's a seal as well. So if that all looks okay, which it does, this piece here, if you take this out, basically there's a spring in here, and it just works again to guide the needle, keep everything sealed up at the back of the brush. If you have to take it out, you can. If you don't have to, don't. It's not necessary, because again, there shouldn't be any paint getting back in that area anyway. Okay, so then what you want to do is you want to take your screwdriver again, put this thing back in. And with this, when you're putting it back in, you do want to use a little bit of downward pressure on it just to get it to take. But once it's in there, then you just crank it over until it gets snug. You don't want to tighten this up too much, but you also don't want to leave it too loose. There's a fairly specific range where you want to keep this piece. If it's too loose, you'll get paint that'll be coming back out into this area of the brush, which you don't want. But you also don't want it too tight, because it will actually grip the needle so that your needle will not slide properly. So there, we are snug right at that point, so I just back it off a little bit, and I'll show you how to adjust that when we get to that point. So again, with this, you can take your needle cap off. This is where this little guy comes in handy. So if you need to take off your tip, that just fits right over top of your tip or over your nozzle. And then you can take that out. You know, look at that, make sure it's clean. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That, however, has a piece of fuzz in there. So normally what I'll do with this is I will just take this and just drop this into my reducer for a minute or so. And let it sit there. And like I said, the nozzle's fine. The crown cap is, or the nozzle cap is fine. I normally don't have my crown cap on. I just don't, unless I'm transporting it or anything like that. My crown cap stays off. So this is where the tweezers come in handy. And this is where this little guy comes in handy, because this just fits right in there like nobody's business. Yeah. There's a little bit of gunk in there. That would explain things. Because this brush actually wasn't spraying as nicely as I was hoping it would be. So there we go. There was a little bit of gunk. Oh, not a little bit of gunk. There's a big chunk right there. Yeah, there we go. So that was what was causing my brush to not work right. It was a piece of crap that had got into the nozzle. And so you just keep doing that and just keep going back and forth until you figure you got that cleaned out to where you want it. Yeah, you definitely got something in there that's... There we go, that's getting better. Okay, so now I'll just take and throw that in here again and give it a quick slosh around just to get some reducer moving through the nozzle. And that's looking much, much better. And if you still think there's anything in there, you can blow through it if you want. There we go, that is cleaned right out. This is also a good time to check your nozzle and make sure there's no cracks or anything. I don't see anything. Looks pretty good. So then at this point in time, I will put the nozzle back in. Again, your little tool. You don't want to crank this too tight because you can break the threads off the nozzle. So just snug, that's all you need. And put this back on. Put your nozzle cap back on. And then you can put that back in. And this will be kind of snug getting it in there and getting it to start. Sometimes it can be a kind of a pain in the butt, but that's just because of the rubber seal that's in there. And you're going to feel it's going to be grabbing on that rubber seal. That's a good thing. You want it to be nice and tight. And just snug those back up. There we go. So those are tightened back up again. Now I'll clean the needle. So normally what I do for cleaning the needle, I just take a little bit of my reducer, put it on a cloth, and then just run your needle back and forth through that. Alright, that looks pretty darn good there. And then when I put my needle in, I go until it stops. Once it stops, then you can put your needle lock back on. So there you're, oh, that's an issue. My trigger popped out, so just give me 1 second here. I just gotta take the needle back out. Get my trigger back down there where it's supposed to be. Yeah, man. There we go. That's the only thing you have to watch out for when you're doing it this way, is that your trigger can pop out. Make sure it didn't. Oh, and there's something else in there that I did not get before. And then, like I said, just put that in until it snugs right up. Don't force it, because if you force it, you'll split your nozzle, and then things become a lot more fun. Put your needle on, lock it into place. There you go. Now everything should be working. You can lubricate the needle, especially if you're using a lot of water-based paints. I find it doesn't make any difference with the paint that I use, because as soon as my paint goes in, the lubrication's gone anyway. Because it's just that much harsher. So normally I don't bother. You can though, for sure. Alright, and then put your back on. And I actually like to set it so that it's open that way, because that way when I'm painting, I'm not actually having any kind of issue with rubbing against the needle lock. And then again, if you do use your spray lock, then you can put that in the back too, but I normally don't bother. So there we go. And that one there should be all cleaned out and ready to go. And like I said, now I know how come it wasn't spraying nice, because it had a chunk of crap in it. Some fuzz that was tied up in paint or whatever. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so that one's clean now and ready to go. And that's the one that I've been using on the Pieta painting that I'm working on, which is a Michelangelo piece. Okay, I'm going to move my stuff back out of the way here, and we'll start all over. So again, take the end cap off. I'm going to put that on the shelf because I'm not putting it back on. Take off your body end, and same thing as we did on the other one. Your needle lock comes off, needle slides out. You can see there's a little bit of black paint on the needle there that needs to be cleaned up. The reason being is that once that dries, it actually will make the needle stick a little bit. So you're losing a little bit of control when that happens. And I'm using a bowl from a totally different brush setup here, but that goes into the reducer as well and gets cleaned out. And then same thing with this one. We're gonna loosen the needle cap, or the nozzle cap I mean, and then we're gonna loosen the whole nozzle. So like I said, this is the exact same brush. The only difference is that on this one here, when you're cleaning out, you've got a side chamber because it's a side feed brush. So you've got a side port that you have to go in and clean out too, just to be safe. And then again, take that screw out. I'm going to move you guys down a little bit here because I think I'm getting off screen on you. So again, same thing. You want to take this out and double check that seal. When you take it out, it also makes it a lot easier to clean the brush because you can get right through the chamber. So again, get this guy out of there. And the only other difference between this brush and the Micron is that this is a 0.18, where the Micron that we were cleaning is a 0.23. So that's really about the only difference. Okay, there we go. We got that out. So now we can check the chamber on this, and that looks pretty good actually. That looks really good. Might be a little bit of gunk on the seal at the end here, but other than that, it looks very good. There we go. So I just cleaned off that seal, and again, this is the perfect time. Check your seal, make sure it's okay. And again, same with this. Check your seal. Wow, this one's perfect. Okay, so because that's okay, again, we can put this back in. The chamber doesn't need to be cleaned on this because I actually just did it about a week ago. So it's pretty clean right now anyway. So like I cleaned out everything, and there was a lot in this one. It was a mess. I should have actually done this video when I did that. And again, you want to use just a little bit of a downward, when you're putting this in, you want to use just a little bit of downward pressure with the screwdriver to get it to start. And then once we get these both back together, then I'll do the final needle adjustment, show you how to do that, which is just basically adjusting this piece. Okay, that's in. And that's the next thing we check is going to be your nozzle and your tip. And that looks pretty clean in there, but I will pull it out anyway and double check it. Yeah, that's really clean in there actually. I do keep my brushes as clean as possible. It's no fun when you're painting and all of a sudden you get a chunk or your brush starts to spit because there's something that's gotten into the nozzle. Okay, so like I said, that looked really good. So put your nozzle cap back on. Okay, I'm going to put that back in. And as you can see, I've taken these apart a few times. I do take them apart on a regular basis, especially if I'm spraying water-based paint. If I'm spraying water-based paint, I take my brushes apart actually rather frequently. I find that it actually clogs up quite badly if you leave it in the brush at all, or anything like that. Okay, so again, we want to put reducer on your towel. We're going to wipe off that needle again. Okay, so there, that black paint that was building up on there is all off. So the needle's ready to be put back in. And same thing on this one as on the other one. The needle goes in, and it goes in all the way until it stops. Do not force it. Nozzle cap on. Or nozzle lock, or your needle lock, I mean, sorry. Thinking ahead of myself here. Okay, so now your back piece can go on, and we'll make that final adjustment in there. So what you want to feel is, you want to, if that feels really good, if that's moving really easy, you can probably snug that up just a little bit more. And that might be just a touch too much. So just in between. You want to feel a little bit of tension on the needle, but not much. There we go. That feels pretty good right there. Yep, that feels pretty good. And if you do take your your trigger out, it's not a bad idea to clean some of the goop off it from any kind of lubrication that you have used in there, because it will build up and it'll get kind of gucky. Okay, so that one's done. Now I'll grab that other one again. We'll make that final adjustment. Again, that's really not tight enough. It's got a lot of movement. It's very easy to move. So again, we'll tighten this up a little bit in here. And just take it until it feels right for you. You know, you're not going to want too much tension on it, but you don't want it to just move like crazy, because if it's moving like that, it means that that piece is not quite sealed and you will get paint leakage coming back up through into the gun. So you want to make sure that those are tightened up just right. And that's about it, guys. That's the down and dirty of disassembling an Iwata and a CMSB and putting them back together again. The only other thing that I haven't done here yet is clean out that paint cup that I had. That's another thing you want to do. You want to make sure that your paint cups stay nice and clean. You don't want to get any contamination from old paint buildup and stuff like that. So normally with this brush, my SB, this is normally the brush that I spray my black in. This brush and the way I set my black up, they just work so nice together. So that one is my black brush. And if you're interested in these paint cups or anything like that, they're a Testors Aztec product. And then the one that I have on my SB, this black cap, that is actually a Badger cap. It's weird. I really don't like the Iwata caps so much, so, or the cups on the side feeds. Not fussy about them. So I change over to my other ones, and they work great. So there we have it, folks. That is how you tear down an SB and a CMC and rebuild them again and give them a decent cleaning. Like I said, if you are using a water-based paint, definitely you want to use the Airbrush lubricant. Lube your needle, and you don't need much. Like what I normally do is I just put a drop on my finger and then just slide the needle through. You're good to go. And that's all you really need. You might want to put a little bit on the trigger mechanism. Again, like I said, with the paint that I use, I don't have to, because as soon as my paint hits it, the lubricant's no longer there anyway. It just tears it right off. And like I said, if you do have the Iwatas, you should invest in an Iwata cleaning kit. They are very nice to have. That's for sure. Okay, everybody. I hope that helped you out with tearing these down and cleaning them out. If you don't have one of these Iwata tools, you can use a pair of needle nose pliers. Just be very, very careful, please. Nozzles and are not cheap to replace in an Iwata brush. So you want to be very, very careful with them. That's one of the reasons they make this tool, is so that you can be very, very careful with your equipment. And like I said, you always want to have a pair of tweezers handy, little flathead screwdriver for adjusting your main screw in there for the needle seal. And that's about it. Your reducer, right? Okay, and again, if there's any questions at all, please leave them in the comments underneath the video. I will get back to you. For anybody that's not on my Facebook page, KO Airbrushing on Facebook, I do live feeds over there on a regular basis, usually every evening or in the evening around 7:30, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. You're more than welcome to join us over there. That way you can ask live questions if you have any. and you can see some of the actual projects that I'm working on other than just doing the tutorials. I do a lot of commission work and stuff like that, and that's where you get to see me doing that kind of stuff. So, all right, everybody, I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you very much for supporting KO Airbrushing and myself, Kelly. I will be back again in, not sure if it's going to be next Tuesday or the Tuesday after that, but I'm going to be doing a video on perspective. I've had people request that from me, so I will show you how I set up my perspective and work on paintings with it and that kind of stuff. So, all right, everybody, I will catch you later. And again, like I said, thank you very much for the support. I hope the video helped you out. And please feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Leave them in the comments. I will get back to you. Thank you.